Hello fellow cinephiles, Film Guru here. For those new to the channel, my name's Sean, also known as Film Guru, and I started this channel I'm particularly say on movies and a variety of film content, so thanks for joining me today. Today I'm reviewing Baz Luhrmann's new film, Elvis. This stars Austin Butler, Tom Hanks, Olivia DeJonge, Cody Smith-McPhee, a variety of others. The film looks at the life of Elvis, played by Austin Butler. From a young kid to the heights of his stardom, all seen through the eyes of his manager, Colonel Parker, played by Tom Hanks. In a way, it feels like I was trying to get to some sort of truth, trying to talk about something that was important, trying to get down to who this person really was, and sort of show him as a man rather than just sort of this megastar that everybody knows him as, and I like that. It felt like I was a participant in his life rather than just observer and a fan. I think all the acting's really great here. I think Tom Hanks is solid as Colonel Parker. I don't know if I love his character. He plays it in such a way it makes him a very unlikable character. And in many ways, he feels like a supervillain sometimes, or even a comic book villain. He comes across a bit unrealistic at times, and it was a bit larger than life. Still made him kind of interesting, but I didn't overly love the character. But I thought Tom Hanks did a solid job to craft the character being hidden amongst all of that prosthetics that he's wearing. Olivia DeJonge, who plays Priscilla Presley, I thought she was really great. She's not in a lot of movies, but when she is, there's a presence to her, and I liked her interaction with Austin Butler, and the relationship and marriage that they craft on screen is really, really great and really believable in many ways. And it's iconic, but very real. Most of the Australian cast did a really good job. Cody Smith-McPhee was good in it as well. As well as David Wenham, I thought was good as well. The characters, all the actors do a solid job with the characters that surround the film and surround Elvis himself. But obviously the big standout here and what really makes this film is Austin Butler's performance as Elvis. It is just amazing to watch. It's phenomenal in many ways. He really encapsulates the man and shows him as a human being rather than just a musician or a movie star. He was much more than that, and I like that he humanizes him so much, and he embodies Elvis in such a great way. You look at him and that's all you really think about. It makes me think of Val Kilmer when he would play Jim Morrison in The Doors. Whenever I think of The Doors or Jim Morrison, I just think of Val Kilmer playing him. And that's the same feeling I had here with Austin Butler playing Elvis. Every time I think of Elvis, I just see Austin Butler because it's such a great performance. He had the voice down pat, his movements. He even sang most of the songs, which was really great. And he really put a power and intrigue into this man, and he was electrifying on screen. It felt like he'd become Elvis. It wasn't an impersonation like you see in a lot of these movies. It was actually he becomes Elvis. And it was really wonderful to see and eye-opening. And it's one of the most iconic performances I've seen in quite a while. And he gives it his all. There's so many great scenes in this film with him. Portrayal of the man and the myth and the way it looks at how he really struggled with the stardom and everything that happened to him. And he had to overcome a lot. And I kind of like that. It just felt a bit more real than what we've seen in previous films or previous incarnations of Elvis's story. There's a number of scenes in this film that really stand out to me. When we first meet Elvis, it's in an alleyway. He's dressed in a pink suit. He's in the corner of this sort of alleyway ready to go on stage for his first live performance. He's very nervous. He's throwing up and he feels uncomfortable. And it's kind of it's the way Parker looks at him. We kind of get a glimpse of him just from behind. We don't really see his face until he goes in and performs, but it's just something about it, the nervousness there. And he's surrounded by his bandmates and his mum and his dad and his girlfriend, and they're just sort of creating a protective circle around him. And he starts to sing, and they all start to sing, and it's sort of like this really great moment. And I thought, what a really great way to show him in a simple way. I loved that. I thought that scene was really fantastic. And then obviously when he gets on stage and performs, it's really powerful to watch as well. Against him performing and dancing the way he was, and that was the only way he felt he could do it. And they were trying to constrain and change him, and he couldn't really change, and then he couldn't accept it. So he ends up just singing this sort of protest song in a way, going against everything that's upon him and forced upon him. And he just sings this song that means so much and expresses so much of what he's feeling, and I really loved it. He's dressed in black, and it's a very powerful performance, and it defines him as an artist, but also has consequences, and those consequences affect the rest of his life and his career because of it. but it was this moment of him standing strong in this scene that was really powerful. Another scene I really liked was where everything's getting too much for him. He can't sustain the pressure it's put upon him to be the person everybody wants him to be, and he's still struggling to find who he is within that. And he escapes his family, ends up back on this street that he grew up on, and he goes into this club with B.B. King. It's just a really great, simple scene, but it shows him seeing other artists perform and him just relaxing and being present and being himself within this in this club with B.B. King, and the relationship between those two guys is really great as well. And it's just a really wonderful scene that I really thoroughly enjoyed. And obviously all the musical performances are really great to watch and electrifying in many ways. Just to see him come out of his shell and be the Elvis on the stage. And I really liked when he first performs in Vegas as well. And the energy, and he puts everything into his performance. It really shows a contrast between the man in real life and the man on stage, and how he just came to life on stage. That's where he felt most comfortable, and his performances are all really fantastic, and I really loved that aspect to it. And I also loved all the scenes where he's struggling to make sense of who he is, of what he wants, and the person he wants to be. And the rocky relationship he had with Parker, and then how Parker manipulated and abused him in a way, and put him in positions where he couldn't leave. He wanted to leave, he wanted to escape and go out on his own, but he kept being put in positions where he couldn't, and he had to stay, and it started to have effect on him. And it started to make you really think about how, as he got older and he was doing these shows in Vegas, how he started to put on weight, and he started to be nearly unrecognizable as the man that they knew when he was younger. Because of all the pressures put on him with all the stuff, he was unhappy, he was depressed, he hated being in Vegas for so long. He wanted to do a world tour, but they wouldn't let him. And to think this really great and famous musician never traveled the world to put on a show, it was all in America. That's extraordinary to think about. And to be so loved in so many countries for not actually going there is just extraordinary, and just shows the power of who he was as a musician and a man. There's another thing that sort of made me think as well, where he has to put on this Christmas special and he doesn't really want to do it, and he ends up changing it, and it becomes the '68 comeback special that everybody knows, the very famous sort of comeback special that he did, where it really reinvented his career and put him back into the limelight. This was his time to reinvent himself and come back into the mainstream, and he did it in a fantastic way. I like the conflict that Parker was trying to create this Christmas show, and Elvis didn't want it, and what transpires there. But also it looks at how the effect that the death of Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy had on him. Within that sort of comeback special, there's a moment where he sings a song that he wrote, and you understand the power and what he's talking about. And it was like someone needed to say something, needed to be this idea of hope again. And he felt like he was the one to say something, and he said it in the song at the end of this special, and it was just fantastic. And they recaptured that beautifully. There's just so much about this I really enjoyed. The Elvis story is so fascinating to me. When I was a kid, I was exposed to Elvis at a young age because my mum is a huge fan. She used to play all his music, and I saw all of his movies. So there's a real connection there with him that has changed over the years, and the way I sort of look at him and the music that he created and the life he lived is more fascinating to me now than when I was a kid. But I just have a connection to him. And I just love seeing these aspects that I didn't know. Learning these things I didn't know, I thought was really great. And that's what was a real powerful draw for me for this film. And obviously Austin Butler's performance as Elvis. Baz Luhrmann's done a great job. There are aspects to it I didn't overly love. Like I mentioned, I felt that the Parker character was a bit over the top, felt like a comic book villain at a lot of times. The other thing is the film at the beginning is a bit chaotic. Baz Luhrmann's throwing all these imagery and all these things at us, and it's hard to make sense of what's going on, and it takes a while for it to find its footing, but once it does, I was really invested completely in the film. But besides that, I really enjoyed this movie and I had a really great time with it. Final thoughts. In the end, it really shows this musician, this well-known figure, as a man, as a person, and we get to see the aspects of him in between the performances he gave, and who he really wanted to be and tried to be, even though he didn't quite get to where he expected to be. I'm going to give Elvis 4 out of 5. It was a solid film, well made, well put together, an extraordinary and fun and entertaining movie with a really wonderful and mind-blowing performance by Austin Butler. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit subscribe down the bottom and follow me on Letterboxd and Facebook. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.